Being joined now by Mark Eckel, covers the Eagles for NJ Advance Media. He's also coming out with a book. It's being called The Big 50, The Men and Moments That Made the Philadelphia Eagles. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good. The book is out, by the way. It's not coming out. It's out.
Okay, great. And where can people get that?
Anywhere you buy your books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, TriumphBooks.com. I don't know. I think Borders is out of business now, so you can't go there. But wherever you buy your books, it's available.
Great. So it's called The Big 50. You can get it now. It's by Mark Eckel, who's covered the Eagles for a long time. Mark, I wanted to start asking you about, when these cuts came down on Sunday, and, a lot of people focus on the fact that Ruben Randall and Chris Givens were kind of like the headline names. But to me, one of the things that stood out was that the Eagles decided to get this done and over with so they can get into the week of practice without having the issue of cuts hanging over anybody's heads.
Yeah, and, they've done that. The Eagles have done that. I mean, I don't want to say forever, but for a long time. And that's one of the things I think it's smart, because the last thing, if you're going to cut a guy, you don't want to bring him back to if you know you're cutting him, why have him practice for a couple more days for no reason? Because the worst thing that could happen is he gets hurt, and then you can't cut him. You have to pay him. So I mean, you're looking at it from that point of view as well. And I'll give the Eagles credit for this too. If you notice the guys they cut in first cuts, they weren't like the worst. People think like the worst players get cut first. That's not necessarily the case. They cut guys like Randall and Givens and Mike Martin, for instance, the defensive tackle, Andrew Gardner. They cut the veterans first, giving them a chance, and it didn't work, but it hasn't worked yet. But giving them a chance to hook on with a team now, as opposed to waiting the last cuts when there's a million guys out there, and it's a little harder. So they did give these guys a little bit of a better opportunity than they would have if they had just kept them around for another week for no reason, really.
Over on NJ.com, you project that the final 5 wide receivers are going to be Jordan Matthews, Nelson Agholor, Doyle Green Beckham, Josh Huff, and Paul Turner. Is that one of those situations where Givens and Randall being gone pretty much cements Turner in that slot? Because it seems like he has really earned the opportunity.
Well, he certainly has earned it. I mean, he's been – if they would have – and again, it's cemented for now, but if there's a wide receiver that they really like who becomes free, or if they swing a trade, then you got to – then they may – 5 is a little light. I went with 5 wide receivers because all indications are that they're going to keep 4 tight ends. So I don't think you can squeeze 6 receivers, 4 tight ends, 4 backs, 3 quarterbacks. You have to go somewhere. Has to get. You know what I'm saying? You can't keep an extra player at every spot. So, but I think Turner has really earned it. If they would have kept Givens or Randall over Turner, then why even bother to have training camp? Just pick your team in April or May, whenever, and go with it, because there's no doubt anybody who's been to camp. I was there almost every day. That watched Turner and watched Givens. It wasn't even close. I mean, it wasn't close at all. So. Yeah, Turner, as you said, he definitely earned a spot. He catches everything. He doesn't have great speed. He's not the biggest guy, but if the ball's near him, it's a catch.
Mark Eckel's with us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. His book is called The Big 50, Philadelphia Eagles. In fact, if you'd like to see Mark, you can see him at JoJo's Tavern tomorrow night, if I'm reading this correctly, Mark, at 7 o'clock, right?
The Hamilton Township, Nottingham Way. Great food. Great place to go have some dinner as well. But, yeah, I'll be signing the book there. I'll also be at the Trenton Thunder Reading Phillies game Sunday night, signing the book there as well.
Wonderful. The Big 50. So we're talking Eagles football. We're talking 53, not 50. But as we try to predict who the final 53 guys are, how about a running back, Mark? Have you seen enough of Wendell Smallwood? Have the Eagles seen enough of Wendell Smallwood?
No, they haven't. But I don't think they want to cut a 5th-round pick, who they were very high on in the spring. After they drafted him, the rookie mini camp. It's a shame he got hurt. He was supposed to play against the Steelers in preseason game 2 and did not. He did play briefly against the Colts and then suffered a concussion. So he's not going to play Thursday night against the Jets. So to answer your question, no, they haven't seen enough to be comfortable to say, he's our, but he's our guy or he's going to play a lot. But I think he makes the team. I think they'll keep 4 running backs. I think they'll keep Ryan Matthews, Kenyan Barner, Darren Sproles. I think they'll keep Smallwood, but I don't expect to see him. I mean, every game day you have to put some guys down on the inactive list. And I think for the first month or so, Smallwood will be on that inactive list on a weekly basis.
And, of course, there's only so many spots on the practice squad, too. Everybody loves to say, oh, they'll just stash him on the practice squad. Well, that's a limited list as well.
And you have to get him there. I mean, if there's another team that liked him and, the Eagles drafted him just before them, you cut him, somebody can pick him up. And I don't think that's a risk the Eagles want to take right now.
We talked earlier in the show. We're visiting with Mark Eckel right now from NJ.com and talking Eagles football. We talked with Barrett Brooks earlier, and obviously a lot of focus there was on the offensive line. I'm curious to get your take on this offensive line, Mark. Is it good enough right now? And obviously it's in great flux because of the Lane Johnson situation.
Is it good enough? It played better than I thought it would the last 2 preseason games. Granted, it's preseason, so there's not a lot of game planning or things of that nature. But the one guy you have to give a lot of credit to, I called him the Eagles' unsung hero the other day, Alan Barber. I mean, here's a guy that, last year, I mean, he's been a guy that's bounced around on the line his whole career. When he was in Green Bay, Miami, Seattle, he's a guard, one with tackle. He was your versatile backup, your Swiss Army knife, so to speak. Because he could play, at least 3, if not 4 positions on the line. So that's what he was. Then last year, he got a chance to start and kind of, became a starting left guard. And, it's funny, I had talked to him, I guess it was maybe mini camp this year, whenever it was a while ago, and he talked about how, because he was going to be a left guard again. And, it's like he said it was like the first time in his career where for 2 straight years he was going to play the exact same position. He didn't have to worry about switching to the right side or switching from guard to tackle. He was going to be a left guard. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Lane Johnson hasn't come out yet, but is probably going to be suspended. And Alan Barber has moved not only from guard to tackle, but from left to right. So, and it's people think it's easy. No, that's not easy. It's not an easy thing for a guy to switch sides, switch positions. He's facing a different kind of rush, So I give Alan Barber a lot of credit, and he hasn't played poorly at all. Again, it was I want to always say it's preseason, but he hasn't played poorly at all. Nobody, quarterbacks haven't been getting killed or even pressured all that much the last 2 games. And Barber's been out there at right tackle, and all indications are he will start the season at right tackle.
Mark, I want to ask you about the running backs for a moment. You mentioned Smallwood earlier. You mentioned the offensive line. The offensive line is blocking for these running backs, and the one guy who I think is going to end up being very important in the long run is Kenyan Barner because – with Smallwood having the concussion issues and Ryan Matthews, I mean, he's only finished a season once in his career. He's only played a full 16-game season. And Barner is a guy who has been the bell cow when he was in college. He did it at Oregon. And I think he's a guy that if they need someone to pick up a bunch of carries, he can do it.
I like Kenyan Barner. I like him I like him a lot personally. He's a great kid. And he's had a great preseason. I mean, he was almost I would say he was on the roster bubble when everything started because they thought Smallwood was going to be that guy. I think in the Eagles' mind, they didn't draft Smallwood for no reason. I think in their minds it was going to be Matthews was going to be their guy, but like you said, he has problems staying healthy. And I think in their mind it was going to be Smallwood and then Darren Sproles doing what he does, which is mostly catch the ball out of the backfield. And Barner was kind of like, well, we'll see. Let's see how he does on special teams. Maybe we'll see. Well, Matthews was hurt early. Smallwood was hurt in early and late for that matter. And Barner got work in camp. Barner got work in preseason. And like we said earlier about Paul Turner, he made the most of it. He seized that opportunity, had a very good preseason, and now he's right in that mix. I'd be careful. I don't want to give him 20, 25 carries a game. I don't know if he can handle that kind of a workload. He might, like you said, he did in college, but that's a different kind of game. But I could see him getting double figures in carries along with Sproul's getting some too. And we're assuming Matthews isn't playing at this point. But even from the beginning, I could see him getting 8 to 10 carries a game with a healthy Matthews.
Mark, you've covered the Eagles for a long time, and that's why I want to ask you about these wide receivers. The one guy who seems to be this perplexing situation is Nelson Agholor, and I've been contending that I think Agholor needs to see a sports shrink or something, because there's no explanation that a guy with that much talent and that much ability just literally cannot catch a ball, but then verbally says all of this mush mash to you guys in the media. And he sounds like a confident guy. Sam Bradford sounds like he's confident in him, but then when he's on the field, he just drops easy passes.
Well, see, everybody says that. Yes, he did drop the one the other night against the Colts, but I actually keep drops game by game. Last year, that wasn't his problem. He only had, I think, 2 or 3 drops, maybe 2. Well, he had less drops than any other wide receiver last year. His problem, to me, is getting open, getting separation from good cornerbacks. But I do agree with you 100% on the fact that he is talented. I love when they made that pick. I was like, wow. I thought that was a great pick. I didn't think he'd make it to 20. The scouts that I had talked to before the draft, and I spend a lot of time on the draft and talking to the guys that I really trust and have been very, very accurate in their scouting reports on the players in the draft. They all loved Agholor. They convinced me that I loved Agholor. I thought that was a real good pick. I thought he was going to be a star. And I don't know. And then, all right, rookie year, a lot of guys. Mike Quick didn't have a good rookie year. So it happens a lot of times in the NFL. So I really expected, okay, this year he's going to break out. He's going to be their number one guy. He's going to take over. And again, the season hasn't started yet, so I don't want to write him off yet. But we really haven't seen it in camp or in the preseason. He looks like the same rookie that did not have a good rookie year, and I don't know why. I can't. If I knew why, I'd tell him. But yeah, it is perplexing. That's a good word, because there is ability. Like I said about Paul Turner being not real big, not real fast. Agholor has decent speed. He has decent size. He looks the part. He just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
We're talking with Mark Eckel right now about Eagles football, and you can find him on Twitter at MarkEckel08. That's ECKEL08. Of course, you can read all his Eagles coverage at NJ.com as well. Let's move over to the defensive side for a minute, Mark, and talk about the defensive side of the football. I guess the Eagles made some news today as they signed a defensive end, but he comes with an arena pedigree.
Yeah, Jake Metz you're talking about, who helped the Soul win the Arena Bowl title. I think you told that he's perfect for the practice squad. I'll be very, very surprised if he makes the roster. He's going to play now. He's going to play a lot Thursday night. So again, I don't want to rule him out completely. If he goes out there and lights it up and makes plays, and hey, I've seen stranger things happen, but I would think the Eagles' plan for him and why they signed him is to get him get him here, see what he can do, and if it looks like he's got some potential, that's what the practice squad's all about. And a lot of good players have begun their careers on practice squads, not just here, but all throughout the league. So I would think that's the plan with him right now, because the Eagles are pretty deep at defensive end. That's the one position. They have the start. They have 3 starters actually: Vinnie Curry, Brandon Graham, and Connor Barwin. They're going to rotate. And Stephen Means has had a great camp, so he's number 4. And then you still have Marcus Smith, the former number 1 pick, who right. I don't know. He's kind of on that roster bubble as well. If he, I'll say this: if he wasn't a former number 1 pick, I don't think he would make the team. But I think they're still holding out hope because of the fact that they picked him number 1.
How about another guy who's just made his Eagles debut last week? That's Stephen Tulloch, and he was in a limited role against the Colts. Do we see more of him on Thursday night, and do you think he starts to get more of the playbook and understand more of the defense, or should he already understand it because he's a Jim Schwartz guy?
Right, that's the least of his problems. He knows that's why he's here, because he does know the playbook. Doug Peterson did say this afternoon that Michael Kendricks and Stephen Tulloch will play Thursday. Kendricks, because he had missed so much time, they think he just needs some reps in this defense. And Tulloch, not that he needs reps in the system, he just needs reps because he hasn't been anywhere. He was out of work till Joe Walker tore his knee on August 20th. So he wasn't in a spring camp, he wasn't in a mini camp, he wasn't in any of that kind of stuff. So he just needs actual work. I mean, he needs to run around and make some hits and get hit and do all the football kind of stuff.
Let me throw this out to you, Mark. If there's more questions, if you make the argument that there's more questions about the offense than the defense, I think a lot of people seem to think that when they look at the Eagles roster and how it is right now and how it's shaping up. But if that's the case, then what questions do you have still that haven't been answered on the defensive side? Even if they're favored to be the stronger half of the football, what questions are still concerning you?
Oh, there are questions. I'll give you a bunch. Well, I'll limit it a little bit for you. But, my questions come at cornerback. I mean, Nolan Carroll's has had a good camp, and I've always thought he was their best corner. I think they've figured it out now as well. I'm not. I mean, Leotis McKelvin's going to start. I haven't been real impressed with Leotis McKelvin. He wasn't the last couple of years in Buffalo. I mean, he was never the guy that Bill thought he was going to be when they drafted him in the first round. And, his last couple of years, he didn't even start for them. He's 31 years old, which is old for a corner. So I'm not sold on him being a shutdown kind of guy by any means. And then who's your nickel? Is it Ron Brooks is there now? Eric Rowe has kind of faded out of the picture, bounced back up a little bit. Now he's, he's kind of in the background. You got Jalen Mills. Again, early on, looked like wow, he's making plays, and he got hurt, and he came back. So the cornerback position, in my mind, is the biggest.
Right. And C.J. Smith. C.J. Smith at times
a kid
flashed
that's
out,
making plays, but everybody's getting excited about him. I think isn't there a rule in the NFL that you can't have two kids from North Dakota State on the same roster? I don't know. I thought there was. Maybe they changed it.
Hello, Fargo. Hello, Fargo. Are you there?
I just don't think I don't know if you can do that. So yeah, I mean, that's not, in my mind, cornerback is without a doubt the biggest question, and then the linebackers as well. Like you said, Michael Kendricks. I don't know if he's having nobody will say this out loud, and Kendricks isn't talking at all. So, is he having a problem adjusting back to a 4-3 defense? And even though I think he's better in a 4-3 defense, but is this scheme not a good fit for him? I don't know what's going on there. I mean, then he had the hamstring, like he always has something. And then Jordan Hicks is, I like Jordan Hicks. I think he's a playmaker. The 6 games he played last year, he played very well. Is he a classic 4-3 middle linebacker? I don't know. Well, so I have the front 4. I don't have any questions with, but the back 7, I have some questions.
We're talking with Mark Eckel, has covered the Eagles for a long time. He's the author of the book, The Big 50, The Men and the Moments That Made the Philadelphia Eagles. You can get it now at your local bookstore. And, of course, as Pete mentioned, he's doing the signing locally. Correct, Pete?
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow night.
Yes. JoJo's Tavern on Nottingham Way in Hamilton Township. I don't know if your listeners. It's not that far. Just go up 295, I guess, right?
Oh, that's literally about a 15-minute drive from our studio.
That's right in our backyard. We're close by.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Mark,
you guys are that close.
Yeah, we are. You are in our country now.
Of course, so says Josh. I love it.
So, sticking with the defense, I want to ask you about something on the defense because, I'm noticing as we go through the preseason that it seems like certain guys, they're picking up this new defense like it's no problem. Obviously, the defensive linemen love it because they can just run downhill and go after players. And then you have situations like Nolan Carroll. It's just every time he plays, I see a guy who's coming more and more into his prime. I don't understand the hype that came out of camp around guys like Jalen Mills and some of these other guys, Mark, because when I see them on the field, I don't see what was reported.
I don't like to criticize my colleagues too often. I guess I do. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. You know what happens? I don't know how to say this tactfully, but guys just fall. Some members of the media, they just seem to fall in love with certain guys,
like coaches do.
Yeah, but coaches, I mean, they have more reason sometimes. I mean, again, I've been doing this a long time, and I guess when I was young and covering my first couple camps, I probably did the same thing. I've been doing this, like I said, this is 30, I don't know, 100 years, whatever it is. I started when I was 10. But camp is camp, and you have to understand that. When the lights come on, it's a different. I've seen a lot of. We used to call them, like the Nova Care All Stars,
Lehigh legends.
Yeah, the Lehigh All Stars. We used to call them. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do great in camp and look great in when they're wearing t-shirts and shorts. But when the pads come on and the lights come on, and it's a different. I'm by no means am I saying Jalen Mills is a washout. But people had him starting. He's going to start. No, he was never going to start. I mean, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be a good player, in the near future even maybe. But yeah, I mean, guys get, last year was the kid Bailey that everybody fell in love with, the wide receiver, local kid that made it even more easy to like him because he was, he grew up in Philly and the whole thing. But no, I mean, there's a reason guys get drafted where they do, and there's a reason things happen. Again, are there mistakes made? Absolutely, but for the most part, the cream rises to the top, so to speak.
And one more focusing on the defensive side I wanted to ask you was, in your projections over at NJ.com, you have 10 defensive linemen making it. Is part of that because some of those guys are going to be on special teams more so than actual depth on the defensive line?
Well, the one is Brian Brayman, I think, makes it for special teams. He's a very good special teams player. Again, I went a little... And that's the choice you have to make. I think you can either keep 10 defensive linemen and 9 defensive backs, or you can go vice versa. You can go 10 defensive backs, 9 defensive linemen. This is the first time I think I went 10, and because I had been cutting Marcus Smith every time, and I don't know. I guess when I thought about it more and more, this one I did more of what I think they're going to do as opposed to what I would do. So I kept Marcus Smith because I think they're going to keep him. Would I keep him? No, I cut him. But I think because he wasn't my first round pick, so I would have no problem cutting him. But he was theirs, and I just think they're going to try to hold on to him another year. But I think they're also going to keep Ryan Brayman. So I went 10 there instead of 10 in the defensive backfield, and that would be the argument to keep. It might come down to Smith or Smith, CJ or Marcus. And, that's a decision that Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, and whoever else gets involved in that will have to make.
Yeah, because the name that stood out to me, because you have also Taylor Hart on there. I know there were rumors that they were looking to trade him, and I wasn't sure if he would still make it.
Could. Well, again, I didn't project any trades in my. I think I might have mentioned that there are. Yeah, Taylor Hart could be moved. Wouldn't shock me if they can get something for him. I think the Eagles are going to make it. I don't think the 53 players that practice next week in preparation for the Cleveland Browns are the 50. Or I don't think all 53 of them are currently on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Right now. I'll say that. I think we'll see either a trade or two, or them claiming a guy off waivers that gets cut, be it a linebacker, be it an offensive lineman. I think they need more depth on the offensive line. I mean, unless they get lucky and Lane Johnson doesn't get suspended, then maybe they're fine. But I think they need a better backup tackle. If your starting tackles are Jason Peters and Alan Barber, I think you need a better third tackle, just in case one of those guys gets hurt. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely, yes.
You can never have enough bodies.
I mean, I know they like the rookie, the Big V, they call him, Vaitai, but he's not ready. The last time Alan Barber started at right tackle, and I don't want to be a jinx here or nothing, but the last time he started at right tackle was when Lane Johnson was suspended in 2014. And he started opening day against Jacksonville and broke his ankle and missed a year. Well, God forbid that happens again. I don't think they have a legitimate backup tackle to put in. I mean, like I said, I don't think the kid's ready, and I don't think you want to put Matt Tobin out there again, do you?
No.
Matt Tobin doesn't seem to ring a lot of confidence in a lot of people we talk to.
No, especially a tackle. Maybe a guard, maybe, but I don't want him to tackle. So, I fully expect the Eagles to bring in either, like I said, either through trade or through the waiver wire, a tackle with a little bit of experience.
Mark Eckel's with us here as we wrap up talking about Eagles football. Of course, they play their final preseason game on Thursday night, and you're very generous, I think, Mark, in your article where you say the kicking battle between Cody Parkey and Caleb Sturgis will also continue. Isn't it already a done deal?
You think Sturgis has won it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that, and you're probably right. And I put Sturgis on my 53. I mean, I'm going to tell you two things and why I'm thinking it's still a battle.
Okay.
One is, I think if we have this conversation in 3 years and we're talking about who do you think is going to be the better kicker three years from now?
Probably
or even 2 years.
Yeah, probably Cody Parkey when he's healthy.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. So do you take that gamble? Do you get rid of a guy that just it wasn't 10 years ago, just 2 years ago, 2014 was one of the top 3 kickers in football. Do you really let him go? They might. They might. I mean, and if they did, I couldn't rip them because Sturgis has had a better camp. And then the other thing I have in the back of my mind that I can't let go is Howie Roseman traded for Cody Parkey. He got him from the Colts when the other kid was going bad, Alex Henry.
Right.
That's one of Howie Roseman's better trades and better moves as a general manager. Caleb Sturgis was signed by Chip Kelly last year when Howie was counting how much air was in the football or whatever he was doing. So there, I mean,
he was replacing the paper towels in the paper towel dispenser. Yes.
Exactly. So I mean, maybe I'm being cynical or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if that plays into it or not, but I think it might.
Well,
I really don't think that battle's over.
Also, for me, Mark, I would say that, and again, this is a personal thing that I have because I have a strange obsession with college football, as everybody knows. But for me, Caleb Sturgis was a huge prospect who was recruited by Florida. A lot of schools like Chip Kelly and Oregon were going after him. And in college, he was very underwhelming. In the NFL, when he got here, he was underwhelming. And I'm afraid that underwhelming guy is going to appear at some point.
Well, I agree with that. And again, you're a little stronger in your feelings towards Sturgis than I am. But I think Sturgis is a fine. He's okay. But I think if you shake the tree, there's a whole mess of Caleb Sturgis will be on the ground. I mean, he's not, to me, he's not special. He's a kicker. He'll get the job done for you. But if they were to cut Sturgis, I'm not so sure he gets picked up immediately.
We've been talking. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Parkey could be special. I mean, I watched Cody Parkey have one of the best years I've seen a kicker have. He was hitting 50s. His kickoffs were great. He rarely missed. He was a Pro Bowl kicker. Like I said, one of the top 3 kickers in football that year, and it was only 2 years ago. So I don't know if you give that guy up. I just don't know.
We've been speaking with Mark Eckel. He's the author of the new book, The Big 50, The Men and the Moments That Made the Philadelphia Eagles. You can check out all of his articles covering the Eagles over at NJ.com. Mark, appreciate the extended time
Mark.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.